My name is Isabella. I am 21 years old. I live in Westbridge, in a small apartment near the edge of the city where rain feels like it never stops. During the day, I work part-time at a private tutoring center, helping other people prepare for futures I once delayed for someone else. At night, I assist a research lab remotely, compiling data and writing reports for a university that offered me early admission. On paper, my life looks stable, quiet, controlled. What no one sees is that for 10 years, every decision I made, every breath I took, was tied to one man. And on the night everything finally collapsed, he decided our breakup would be settled by a number. Mark and I were not speaking. We had not been speaking for days. That was how our fights usually went. Silence first, punishment second, ultimatum last. I was sitting alone at my desk, the glow of my laptop reflecting off cold coffee, when my phone vibrated. One notification, then another, then another. Mark had posted a status on his social feed. 100 likes, and we break up. No explanation, no apology, no accountability, just a public execution disguised as humor. My stomach dropped, not because I was surprised, but because I recognized the pattern immediately. He had done this 8 times before. 8 times, he had dangled the word breakup over my head like a blade. 8 times, he had waited for me to fall apart, to call him crying, to admit fault, to beg him to stay. And every time I did. Because every time, I believed losing him would mean losing everything. The likes climbed fast. 10, 20, 50, 70. Strangers pressing a button, unaware they were voting on my humiliation. By the time it reached 99, my hands were shaking so badly I had to put my phone down on the table. I knew he was watching the number. I knew he was waiting for me. He always waited for me. He believed I would come running. I imagined him leaning back somewhere, phone in hand, smug and calm. He enjoyed this part, the moment when he held all the power, when he reminded me without saying it out loud that I was replaceable, disposable, temporary. For a long time, I just stared at the screen. I thought about how I followed him from the age of 11, how I moved into his house after my parents died, how he became my shelter, my routine, my entire emotional world. I thought about how he remembered my monthly pain but forgot my dignity, how he protected me from strangers but wounded me himself, how everyone said I was lucky to have him, and how I learned to believe that meant I should accept anything. My chest hurt, not with panic this time, but with exhaustion. Something inside me went quiet. I picked up my phone. I did not call him. I did not message him. I did not explain. I pressed like. The number changed to 100. That was it. No fireworks. No dramatic music. Just a small blue icon filling the last empty space. The relationship that shaped my childhood and destroyed my self-respect ended with a single movement of my thumb. I unfollowed him immediately. I did not block him. I wanted him to see it. I wanted him to understand that for the first time, I was not begging. 10 days passed. Then his friend contacted me, casually, confidently. He said Mark was still waiting for me to lower my head. He said tomorrow was Mark's birthday, and if I showed up with a cake, everything would go back to normal, like it always did. Normal. I typed 2 words. I am busy, because I was. The next morning, I was boarding a flight to Hong Kong to enroll at a university I once rejected because Mark wanted me to stay. As the plane lifted into the gray sky, something heavy finally loosened inside my chest. I used to be terrified of losing him, but the moment I actually did, all I felt was relief. Before Lily appeared, Mark and I lived inside a bubble that everyone around us called fate. We shared a house, a history, and a routine so tightly woven that people stopped asking where one of us ended and the other began. After my parents died, his family became my shelter, and Mark became my axis. I did not just love him, I orbited him. From the time I was 11 years old, I learned to measure my safety, my worth, and my future by his presence. He took care of me in ways that made people envious. He remembered my habits, my fears, my physical pain. When I curled inward from cramps, he made warm tea and told me to rest. When classmates mocked me for being quiet, he stepped forward without hesitation. In those moments, I believed protection meant love. I believed that because he was gentle sometimes, he could not be cruel other times. I did not yet understand that kindness given conditionally is just another form of control. As we grew older, that control became subtle. Mark rarely raised his voice. He did not need to. His disappointment was sharper than anger. When I upset him, he withdrew. When I questioned him, he smiled and called me sensitive. When I cried, he sighed as if burdened by my emotions. Slowly, without realizing it, I learned to apologize first, explain later, and doubt myself always. Then Lily entered our lives. She was introduced as someone fragile, poor, deserving of compassion. Mark's grandfather sponsored her education after hearing her story about illness and hardship. When she arrived at our house, she kept her head down and spoke softly, as if afraid to take up space. Her eyes were always wet, her voice always trembling. I saw myself in her vulnerability and offered kindness without hesitation. At first, Mark praised me for it. He said I was mature. He said I was generous. He said he admired my empathy. That approval mattered more to me than I admitted. I did not notice when his praise slowly shifted away from me and toward her. Mark began talking about Lily constantly, how hard her life was, how grateful she was, how easily she felt hurt. If I mentioned feeling uncomfortable, he reminded me how privileged I was. If I hesitated, he asked why I lacked compassion. Each time I felt smaller. Each time I swallowed my discomfort because I did not want to be the villain in a story where she was clearly cast as the victim. The first time I truly felt afraid was when I learned my university preferences had been changed. A teacher asked me casually why I altered my application plan. I stared at her, confused, and laughed it off at first. But when I checked the system, my original choices were gone, replaced. My heart pounded as I confronted Mark, expecting shock or anger on my behalf. Instead, he laughed. He said Lily was upset that day and wanted to joke around. He said it was harmless because it could be fixed. He told me I was dramatic, that I always took things too seriously. When I pointed out that this could have legal consequences, that it could destroy years of work, his expression hardened. He said if I wanted someone to blame, I could blame him. Then he warned me, calmly, that if I continued making a scene, he would have to reconsider our relationship. That was the moment I understood the rules had changed. Before Lily, our conflicts ended with reassurance. After Lily, they ended with ultimatums. Mark had learned exactly how to silence me. He knew that the threat of losing him would override any sense of justice I had left. And he was right. I tried to endure. I told myself Lily was temporary, that once her situation improved, she would leave, and everything would return to how it was. I did not realize she was not looking for stability. She was looking for replacement. The day I overheard her conversation with her mother at the hospital shattered whatever illusions I had left. I stood outside the room holding soup I made, listening as they spoke openly about separating me from Mark, about wealth, about opportunity, about how once she secured him, their lives would change forever. My hands went numb. I planned to tell Mark everything. I trusted 10 years of history. I trusted shared childhood. I trusted memories more than evidence. Lily did not wait. She cried in front of me. She knelt. She begged me not to tell him. She blamed everything on her mother. She said she was just a daughter trying to comfort a dying parent. I believed her because I had been trained to believe tears over truth. Then she pulled me into the water. What followed became a sequence of events that rewrote my identity in Mark's eyes. She almost drowned. She accused me. She cried louder. When I told Mark the truth, he looked at me with suspicion, not concern. He said Lily could not swim and I could. He asked me if I truly believed someone would risk their life just to frame me. In that moment, something inside me broke completely. I realized that no amount of truth could compete with the story he wanted to believe, and I was no longer the person he chose. After the incident at the water, I expected Mark to cool down and listen. I expected the 10 years we shared to do what 10 years is supposed to do, which is create trust that cannot be shaken by a single dramatic scene. Instead, the water became a line in the sand. On one side stood Lily, fragile and trembling, wrapped in other people's sympathy like a blanket. On the other side stood me, soaked and shaking, trying to explain the truth, while Mark watched me as if he was measuring how convincing my fear looked. When Lily recovered enough to speak, she did not need to say much. She said she was scared. She said she did not know why I hated her. She said she only wanted to study and take care of her mother. She cried so softly that it forced everyone else to lean in, which meant her tears filled the room before my words could. Mark said my name the way you say a warning. He told me to stop. He told me to be honest about what I felt. He told me not to lie to him. That was the first time I realized gaslighting is not always loud. Sometimes it is a calm voice that makes you question your own memory. Sometimes it is someone you love looking at you like you are the problem, until you start checking your own reality like a faulty receipt. From that day on, nothing I did was neutral anymore. Every action had a shadow attached to it. If Lily looked upset, it became evidence that I had done something. If Lily stayed quiet, it became proof that she was being bullied. If I defended myself, it became me being aggressive. If I stayed silent, it became me being guilty. Mark began using the same phrases over and over, like he was reciting them from a script. You are overreacting. You are making it bigger than it is. You always take things too personally. You are too emotional. He said those words so often that they started to feel like facts. Then the small traps began, and they came fast enough that I never had time to breathe between them. At school, someone locked Lily in a bathroom stall. She cried in front of teachers. Her friends immediately said my name because they had been told my name. I had no proof I did not do it, and I learned quickly that innocence does not matter when the crowd already chose its villain. Mark was not there, but his friends were. They watched me the way people watch an animal they already decided is dangerous. Another time during an exam week, Lily got sick and claimed someone gave her something that made her stomach turn. The rumor spread before I even heard about it. When I tried to speak, a teacher held up a hand and told me to stop causing trouble. Mark heard about it and said I needed to learn restraint, as if my anger was the crime, not what was being done to me. I tried to gather evidence. I tried to catch Lily in a contradiction. I watched her expressions, her timing, her sudden crying spells. I listened for slips, but Lily was careful. She acted helpless in public and sharp in private, and she switched so smoothly that I began to doubt whether I had imagined the sharpness at all. What made it worse was Mark's response every time I reached for him. I kept thinking if I explained it one more time, if I showed him one more detail, if I reminded him of our history one more time, he would return to me. He did not return. He stood near me but not with me. Sometimes he looked tired of me, like my pain was an inconvenience he had to manage. Sometimes he looked annoyed, like my refusal to accept my own erasure was a personal insult to his comfort. I watched his patience shrink in real time. One evening I came home early and found him on the couch, phone in hand, smiling down at the screen. When I asked what he was looking at, he tilted the phone away without even thinking, like it was instinct. Then he looked at me and said I was being suspicious again. My stomach turned, not because I had evidence of anything physical, but because I recognized the shift in loyalty. The smile he used to give me had found a new target, and he did not even bother pretending it had not. A few days later, Lily crossed a line that was not about school or reputation. It was about my grief. I walked into the living room and saw something torn on the floor near the trash. At first, my mind did not understand what my eyes were seeing. Then I recognized the faces. My parents. Old photographs treated like paper scraps. The sound that came out of me was not a cry. It was a raw, helpless noise, like my body was trying to protect itself from collapsing. Lily stood there with wet eyes, her hands trembling dramatically, and she said she did not mean it. She said it was an accident. She said she was cleaning and did not realize. I did not believe her for a second. My hands shook. My vision narrowed. Grief and rage tangled together so tightly I could not separate them. I raised my hand and slapped her. It was one moment, 1 second, one mistake. It was also the moment Mark walked in. He froze in the doorway, eyes on Lily's face, then turned to me like he had never seen me before. There was no hesitation, no question, no concern for what she had destroyed. His expression was pure disappointment, pure judgment. He did not ask what happened. He did not ask why I was shaking. He said I was cruel. That was when he started threatening the breakup openly. Not as a joke on a screen, but as a weapon he could pull out anytime he wanted to shut me down. If you do not apologize, we are done. If you keep acting like this, I will leave. If you cannot be mature, then maybe we should not be together. Every time he said it, my stomach tightened. Every time he said it, Lily looked calmer. She learned his power was not his anger. His power was my fear. I started waking up exhausted, like I had been running all night. My body stayed tense even when nothing was happening, because something was always about to happen. I began keeping my voice low. I began choosing my words like stepping stones over a river, afraid one wrong step would drown me. I began monitoring my face in mirrors, practicing neutral expressions so no one could accuse me of looking hateful. That was the darkest part. Not the rumors, not the traps, not even Mark's coldness. It was the way I started policing myself to survive them. Then Lily went after my future again. I discovered my exam admission paperwork had gone missing. Important documents, deadlines, forms that could not be replaced easily. When I confronted her, she cried and said she never touched anything. Mark told me I was paranoid, told me I needed to stop blaming her for everything. I managed to replace what I could in time, but the message was clear. She could sabotage my life, and I would still be the one on trial, and Mark would still be the judge. The last night before everything shifted, we argued again. I was shaking with anger, not even raising my voice, just asking him to admit what was right in front of him. He leaned back, looked at me like I was exhausting, and said Lily was just having a hard time. He said I should let it go. He said I should stop acting like a child. Then he picked up his phone, smiled down at it, and started typing. I watched him, the way his mouth softened, the way his eyes warmed, the way his thumbs moved fast, like he could not wait to respond. I felt something in my chest go cold. In that moment, I understood the truth I had been refusing to say out loud. Lily did not win because she was smarter than me. Lily did not win because she acted better. Lily won because Mark wanted her to. And once I understood that, everything that came next became inevitable. Because the moment I stopped begging for his belief, I started preparing for my exit. And Mark did not notice. Not yet. The night Mark decided to humiliate me publicly did not start with shouting. It started with silence, the kind of silence that presses against your ears until you feel dizzy. He did not come home. He did not answer my messages. For the first time in years, I did not call him repeatedly. I did not ask where he was. I sat on my bed, back against the wall, staring at the clock as the minutes crawled past midnight. By morning, my phone buzzed non-stop. Lily had posted a new update, a photo of fireworks bursting over a resort plaza. Bright, loud, romantic. At the center of the frame stood Mark and Lily. Her fingers laced tightly through his arm, her head tilted toward him like she belonged there. The caption was short and cruel in its innocence. Took care of him all night. Exhausted but happy. I stared at the photo for a long time, not because it shocked me, but because it confirmed something I already knew. He did not come home because he did not want to. He did not answer because he did not need to. I was no longer part of the equation he cared about. When I returned to the house later that day, my arms full of bags from the grocery store, I heard laughter before I even opened the door. Lily's voice, soft and playful. Mark's voice, lower, indulgent. They were sitting together on the couch, leaning close, sharing a tablet like a couple who had never known tension. Mark glanced at me briefly, then looked away. Lily stood up immediately, smiling, reaching for my bags. I stepped aside to avoid her touch. She fell. It was almost impressive how fast it happened. 1 second she was upright, the next she was on the floor, fragile and boneless, like her body had forgotten how gravity worked. The sound echoed through the room. Mark was on his feet in an instant. He did not ask what happened. He did not look at me. He went straight to her, lifting her gently, anger flashing across his face as he turned toward me. "What is wrong with you?" he snapped. "Why did you push her?" I said I did not. I told him to check the cameras. Lily spoke first. "Do not blame Isabella," she whispered. "I just slipped." Mark's jaw tightened. For a brief second, something like doubt crossed his face. Then it vanished. He did not apologize. He only held Lily closer, checking her hands, her arms, her knees, like she was made of glass. That was when I understood something else. Even when the truth was within reach, he did not want it. I went upstairs without another word. At dinner, Lily was still there. She carried a bowl of hot soup toward me, smiling softly. I stood up instinctively to make space. She collided with me deliberately this time. The soup splashed across her arm, her chest, my side. She screamed. Mark shoved me away. I hit the floor hard, my back scraping against the edge of the table. Pain shot through my spine and knee, but he did not look. He rushed to Lily, swearing under his breath, calling for ice, medicine, help. He did not notice my burns. He did not notice the blood on my leg. When he finally turned to me, his eyes were cold. "Apologize," he said. I looked up at him, at the face I had loved since childhood, at the man who once promised never to let anyone hurt me. I said no. The word landed heavier than I expected. Mark stiffened, like I had slapped him instead. He warned me again. He told me not to test his patience. He told me I knew the consequences. I told him to do whatever he wanted. He grabbed Lily and left. My hands were shaking when I called a car to take me to the hospital. The doctor treated my burns and abrasions carefully, gently, like my pain mattered. On the way home, my friend called. She told me Mark had taken Lily to a resort, that he was setting off fireworks to cheer her up, that he had posted another status. 100 likes and we break up. It was the same line, the same threat, the same trap. 99 likes. I looked at the photo attached. Fireworks in the sky. Mark and Lily at the center, her hand in his. The promise he once made to me written across the night, now given to someone else. I pressed like. The number turned to 100. I did not cry. I went home and packed. Every gift he had given me over 10 years went into boxes. Watches, jewelry, letters, small things I once treated like proof of love. I left them behind with a note. I returned everything. While Mark waited for my call, I booked my flight. While he refreshed his screen, expecting my surrender, I closed my suitcase. While he believed I was bluffing, I walked away. By the time he realized the final like belonged to me, I was already gone. And for the first time in 10 years, he had lost control. Not because I fought him, but because I stopped. I landed in Hong Kong before dawn. The city was still half asleep. Lights scattered like constellations across concrete and glass. When I stepped out of the airport, the air felt different. Thicker, warmer, real. For the first time in years, I was standing somewhere that had nothing to do with Mark. No shared memories, no expectations, no silent rules about how I should behave to be loved. My senior from the university met me at the gate. She spoke calmly, confidently, like someone who belonged exactly where she was. She showed me the campus, helped me settle into my dorm, invited me to dinner without asking who I was attached to back home. That night, lying in a narrow bed with unfamiliar sounds outside the window, I slept deeper than I had in years. I turned off my phone. I did not need to see the messages piling up. I already knew what they would say. Mark did not realize I was serious at first. He waited, confident as always, believing this was another test I would fail. When his birthday party began without me, confusion replaced arrogance. When his friends called and I did not answer, irritation followed. When I finally spoke and told them we were done, disbelief set in. Only later did panic arrive. By the time he rushed home, the house was empty of me. My room was clean, too clean. The gifts I had kept like trophies of endurance were packed neatly and returned. The note was simple. I gave back everything he ever gave me, because I no longer wanted to owe him anything. He called, again and again. When I finally answered, his voice shook. He said we never broke up because he never agreed. I reminded him of his own rules. 100 likes. Everyone saw it. Everyone knew, including him. He tried to deny it. He tried to rewrite it. He tried to blame Lily. He tried to say nothing happened. When I asked him directly whether he had slept with her, he hesitated. That hesitation told me everything I needed to know. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because the illusion finally shattered completely. A man who wants everything will always lose it all. He wanted control, comfort, admiration, and escape. He wanted me waiting in the background while he tested other possibilities. What he never expected was that I would choose myself quietly and leave him with nothing to negotiate. What happened next did not involve me, but the consequences reached far. Lily and her mother were investigated. The truth about their schemes surfaced. The illegal substances, the recordings, the extortion. They were taken away by the law they thought they could manipulate. The scandal never fully went public, but within Mark's circle, everyone knew. His reputation fractured. Trust evaporated. The boy who believed he could control outcomes learned what it meant to be outplayed by reality. He came to see me months later. He apologized. I accepted the apology because carrying hatred felt like another chain, but I did not accept him back. 10 years of love does not excuse a single choice to betray trust. Love does not disappear overnight, but respect does. I chose to study, to build a future that did not depend on anyone's permission. I did not rush into another relationship. I did not need a replacement. I needed space to rebuild myself from the ground up. I learned something essential. People can abandon you. Promises can rot. Feelings can change. But what you invest in yourself will never turn against you. Knowledge does not gaslight you. Independence does not threaten you. Self-respect does not ask you to beg. I used to believe losing him would destroy me. Now I know the truth. Losing him saved me. And if you ever find yourself staring at a screen, waiting for someone to decide whether you are worth staying for, remember this. The moment you stop waiting is the moment you take your life back.